Welcome everybody, I'm the Casual Shark, and today we are going to talk about tips and tricks number 2 for LEGO Fortnite. So if you watched the first episode, it was about tips and tricks mainly for the desert and those resources that you can find there. Well, for this video, we're going to talk about tips and tricks for the Frostlands. So as you can see, got our huge mountain in the background that's in the Frostland, and that is where we are going to be heading today. As we start this video with tip number 1, which is probably the most important tip, is the inner fire charm. You're going to need to collect the resources to make at least 2 of these, I would say, because this paired with the food that helps you survive, the cold, is going to be what you need to spend a long period of time collecting all the different resources and doing all the different tasks that I'm going to cover in this video. So after you've done that and we move into the Frostlands, we're going to start with tip number 2, which is frost pines. You're going to want to collect as much of this wood as you can while you're here, especially if this is your first time coming, because it's going to be used to make like better axes or better pickaxes, and that's going to help you collect even more resources in the future. As you can see here, I'm on top of this hill. I'm chopping down a couple of these trees, collecting the frost pines, and it's an epic resource, so you see that it shows up purple. So now that we've collected frost pine, we're going to glide down here into this valley, and you may have just saw it, and that's going to lead us into tip number 3, the Frostland rollers. And so these are one of the main enemies that are new to this area, and they deal a lot of damage, so you're going to want to be careful when you're fighting these. Even though you have the charms that increase your hearts and increase your defense and things like that, you're still going to want to, be cautious, because if they roll into you, it's going to take a lot out of you. But one tip that I will say for while you're fighting these, especially if there's a pair of them, use them against each other. Like that right there, you just saw that one roller rolled into the other and it almost killed it. If you can do something like that, definitely go for it, because you're going to want to collect these shells, and those shells are going to be used for a couple different things that you'll see as you go back to the crafting table. So another thing to note about the Frostland, if you haven't been to the desert and you haven't checked out my other video, I'm going to link it up here in the corner. So after I've collected some snowberries, I'm going to glide across this valley, caves, and iron. Iron is a resource that builds better swords, better bows. It's just going to really improve your weapons. And that's one thing you're really going to need, especially being out here in the wild like this, because as you go to these different areas, the enemies just get stronger. As we come up on this cave, you can see that it's right on the edge of the actual mountain and the glacier. At least that's what it looks like. And so for this cave, there's not much in this cave except for some enemies and the iron. So you will have chests like you do in other caves, and they're going to be even better chests with better loot, things like that. But as soon as we come in this cave, the first thing you see is iron. And like the frost pines, go ahead and collect as much as you can while you're here, because you're going to want to go back to base and you're going to want to make a better shield, a better bow, and a better sword so that you can better protect yourself. When you get back to base, you are going to have to turn this into iron bars before you can do anything with it, but it was the same concept with the copper. So just be sure you collect a lot and you can take that back to base with you. Now that we've left the cave, as you can see, I almost died to lightning right there. We're going to move on to the second type of ore that is found in the Frostlands. Now that we've finished in the cave, we're going to move on to the second type of ore, which takes us to tip number 5, Malachite. Malachite is this green emerald colored ore that you're going to collect on the side of the mountains in the Frostlands. It's not found in the caves or anything like that, so it's relatively easy to get. There's not much in your way of it except for building up to it, because it's not really found at the base of it. As I traversed this mountain, that's where I found it, just scattered along the sides of the cliffs and things on this mountain. And as you can see, when you destroy the ore or the veins that it's in, it drops a lot. It didn't take long at all for me to have 3 stacks of malachite ore. So here you can see is another group of it, and it's very abundant, and each of these are going to give me quite a bit of malachite ore, and I'm not going to need really any more after this trip in the Frostlands. We've collected malachite ore. Now we're going to move on to something that I find to be a little more entertaining. It's going to be tip number 6, and it's heavy wool. You see these sheep, they look different than the ones in the grassland, and if you go pet them, then they give you wool. So kind of like the grassland sheep, if you pet them, they'll give you regular wool. Well, these sheep will give you heavy wool. So be sure while you're out in the Frostlands, you make it a point to go, just have some fun and play around with these sheep and pet some of them and collect a little bit of heavy wool. Now you've collected some heavy wool. Probably ready to head back home. You think you have all that you need. Well, you're heading back and it's nighttime. You've got some skeletons to fight, and these skeletons are way tougher than the other skeletons in the different biomes. So these skeletons actually have iron swords and iron shields, and they do a lot of damage. You can see right there, one hit me and I took 3¼ hearts of damage, and they use their shields all the time, which makes it even harder to kill them. So if you don't have to fight them, don't fight them. I tried to take out a couple, that way I could see if they drop their iron swords, but every time I killed one, it just dropped a regular long sword. So don't even waste your time trying to fight them. Just run away, and then if you need bones, go kill the regular skeletons that are going to spawn in the grasslands, because one hit with a sword and you've got a couple bones. So just kind of stay away from the skeletons in the Frostlands if you are able to. But the skeletons are going to kind of, transition us in to tip number 7. It brings us back to the other enemies that are in the Frostlands. And probably the most ferocious enemy that you're going to find in the Frostlands is the wolf. It's just like the other wolves in the other biomes, except this one's blue, and it gives you a different type of claw that you're going to need for making different types of charms and different pieces of equipment. And these wolves do even more damage than anything else I faced out here in the Frostlands. So you're going to see me take some damage, and it's going to take away quite a number of my hearts. So if you don't have good weapons or good defense, then you're probably not even going to want to face these right now. So my good sword that I had broke, so I just took the action to run away, saw this little bandit camp, and I used them. Use your surroundings, use your resources. And I was on my way back to base, and I just found this tree that had a rock growing out of it, and I'm not sure why. Anyways, that's going to be all for this video today. And if you liked what you saw and you think these tips and tricks are helpful, go ahead, subscribe, leave a like on the video, leave some comments. Tell me what you want to see. Do you want to see more tips and tricks? Do you want to see different Lego Fortnite videos? Here's the first playthrough that I made. Go ahead, go watch it. But until next time, have a great one.